So, this is a video about tarot cards and tarot card readers. Because sometimes you can be under the impression that YouTube is run solely for the benefit of a cabal of tarot card readers. The most curious phenomena. And I ask myself, what are they doing? What are they doing? What is the audience doing watching it? It's most curious. Sometimes I think, why are they making videos? They're probably paying their electricity bills. And who can hold that against them? It'd be funny if everybody has to become tarot card readers to pay their electricity bills. But I have planned ahead. I do have at least 3 or 4 unlit candles ready for the winter. But anyway, in simple terms, tarot cards seem to be about using a set of symbols that describe all the human archetypes in psychology and spirituality, and using those archetypes to tell a story. And the story, of course, is about human relations and where everybody is on their own particular journey, the stage of the hero's journey. And I think, of course, what works so well for tarot card readers is that somebody is always just meeting somebody new, somebody is always leaving, somebody is always arriving. So you can create a kind of false synchronicity, and you can keep clicking on different readings sort of until you get the reading you like. And of course, you have a natural appeal to different personalities, and of course it's all very odd. Speaking for myself, of course, as a member of the patriarchy, that this is like a natural woman's profession with their gifts of intuition and appeal to melodrama. I mean, it's funny, you can sort of imagine the same women at the Oracle of Delphi 2,000-3,000 years ago doing the same thing. How they were paid in those days, I don't know. I mean, they probably didn't use PayPal. Maybe Bitcoin. The more things change, the more they stay the same. It's so strange thinking of human relationships and interactions fall into what you could see as being a very limited set of archetypes of meeting the new person, being reconciled with the old person, someone getting married, someone having a baby, somebody dying and going to the funeral. That we live within what seems like a very limited set of archetypes. But for each individual, and experiencing everything as being new for the first time, and the intensity of the emotions, and it is something quite different in its power. And there is an appeal just about storytelling. It's a very good it's a very good form of storytelling. Now, Ouspensky wrote his own book as a guide to the tarot, in which he laid out the sequence of all the cards as being like a story from beginning to end. I was thinking of reading from that, or um, maybe doing that separately, um, which goes into where he goes into all the elements and into the occult and esoteric nature of it, from the simplest symbols to the most complex, of how we are earth, air, fire, and water elements mixing, interchanging on our journey. Now, I am not a qualified tarot card reader from the Royal Tarot Card Association of Atlantis and Lemuria. But I have a few thoughts anyway, purely speculative and amateur. As I said, who would begrudge these women paying their electricity bills through tarot cards? At the same time, I feel what they are doing is, well, sometimes it can be like spell casting. Um, if you're sitting there watching someone speaking directly to you and saying, you will do this, you will do that, you will meet this person, you will leave that person, and you're sitting there like a mouth breather, taking it all in. In some way, you're just nakedly taking information directly into the subconscious, and the subconscious is like this store of information. And I think it depends whether you're the type of person who loves that free flowing information, almost sort of regardless of what the information is. But in a way, it's I think it's slightly dangerous. In one sense, you're overriding your own intuition, or you could say the development and progress of your intuition, by constantly looking to something, an external object and an external person, to your own self, looking for validity to your instincts and your subconscious mind and your dreams and your own interpretation of signs and symbols. In a way, I think it can stop people progressing. That, it's that desire for the external validation. The worst aspect of it is the possibility that some people are actually channeling information like geomancy from negative entities, where they can speak about something or a situation that can seem like they know too much information, or it's too spot on, and you're drawn into something, but then your own feelings are being massaged towards a conclusion, where ideas are being put into your mind that actually have nothing to do with your reality, or to be told that someone is cheating on you. That is getting into quite dangerous territory. And like anything else, it's like the world is a mirror, and you can scan down this list of all the different titles. Like abundance, a new beginning, an ending, a beginning, an ending, a beginning, an ending, a beginning, um, etc. Uh, and I think it's pretty obvious that melodramatic people are attracted to the more melodramatic clickbait titles, such as one's referencing one's baby mama, uh, phone call incoming from jail, etc. So if you're the type of person who's inclined to click on that, then you're already fully enmeshed in a melodramatic entanglement, and good luck to you with that. Otherwise, you keep scrolling, um, and the people who build the following are the people with the appealing personality, are the one that you most resonate with. And again, speaking as a privileged member of the patriarchy, the privileged heterosexual patriarchy, it's kind of, this slightly different viewing all the different women. But the less said about that, the better. So I've completely derailed myself with these outrageous observations. So in the best sense of it, you're using archetypal signs and symbols to build a story. It's like, where are you on that hero's journey? Have you arrived at the tavern yet? Have you met the white pony and offered him a carrot? Have you now crossed the river of fire, etc.? The worst part of it is making you doubt your own intuition by looking for other people to tell you what's happening. And that is something that's stopping your own natural development, because only you can develop your intuition. And the worst of it is someone is infusing your energy synthetically with demonically inspired gibberish that convinces you to leave a partner, or that everybody's out to get you, or etc. But it's interesting, one day we'll look back, and we'll ask, was there a time when anybody wasn't the tarot card reader paying their electricity bills? And we'll think in wonderment what kind of society that was. Now what I have here are playing cards illustrated with themes from Greek mythology. The best souvenir from Greece. I like that, because if you're wondering what the best souvenir is, this helpfully lets you know. Have a look here. This will be an unboxing video, so this is a bonus unboxing. Contains all the Greek gods plastic coated. Now you see, in ancient times, people wouldn't realize this now, that everything was plastic coated, which is how they've survived into our times. And you shall see here on the top. Now, I'm not sure if this is 2,250 or 2,250 drachmas, if you're wondering. These are from the ancient past, a time we like to call the 1990s, before the euro, when everybody was delightful. I'll have a look here. Greek mythology. Now, don't get a fright. I shall do a card trick. Demetrius Hytalus in Athens, that's his telephone number. If you need to contact Demetrius, you can phone him there. Ask him if he watches the Duran. It's very scary. But don't worry, we'll be okay. We'll have a story to tell. It's curious that isn't it? So it matches my let's see, so Dionysus enjoying a libation. Yeah. As played by Jim Morrison. We have Aphrodite and Venus, rather risque. Please look away. We have Poseidon and Neptune. Because you see, you have the Greek name and you have the Roman name, as the Romans were rather lazily just copied all the Greek gods and renamed them, presumably to save time and, have more time spent to argue with their women. Trident is a fascinating symbol because it's like a trinity, but it's like destruction, creation, regeneration. It's like a power of creation and destruction, and it's one of those symbols that also seems to be, you see, used in the Hindu gods as well. And it's interesting how you see the hexagram, the Star David, in going back to ancient times, and how all these sign symbols overlap, probably to much older civilizations, before our fallen era, Atlantis, etc. Now we have Odysseus and Ulysses. We see the very handsome Odysseus there looking longingly at a horse. If I remember correctly, I believe Odysseus went on a journey with a horse and they fell in love. Yes, I think he fell in love with a wooden horse. And also, of course, known as Ulysses, as he was known in to the ancient Irish people of the 1920s who were engaged in writing post-war modernist fiction. We have Mercury and Hermes, the messenger, the first to get the information. I think Mercury would be quite addicted to reading Zero Hedge, and not doing anything useful. Hera and Juno with their staff there. You have Jupiter and Zeus, king of the hill, with his lightning bolts. No Zeus in the Marvel films. And we have Achilles, as played by Brad Pitt. Aeolus and Aeolus, the winds, the air, the natural elements in their Stoic pantheism. Minerva and Athena. So this would be the owl of Athena as wisdom. Athena, of course, as a warrior, but also identified with being wise, and rather than eating children and giving them to Moloch, was more of a symbol of wisdom. And we have Hephaestus and Vulcan. So this would have been Spock's dad, I suppose, originally, if you go back far enough. Who've got here? This is Hercules. Yes, I hope that line is okay there. We have Diana and Artemis, good friends with the stag, and the hunter's arrow. Apollon and Apollo here with a harp. It's an interesting depiction. And we have Theseus is making friends with the bull there. Now I realized that I am actually missing a card. Unbelievably, there is no king. There is no king of spades, which is quite funny. You see, we go back. We look at this chap here, Theseus. Now, the king of spades would have been Theseus's dad. Because in the story of Theseus and the Minotaur, his dad, I think, was Aegeus, which is where you get the name the Aegean Sea, and Aegeus, there in the Mediterranean. And the story was that boys were sacrificed to the Minotaur, who lived in the middle of the labyrinth in Knossos in Crete. And so the king would, they'd select the boy to go in and be sacrificed to satisfy this creature who's like half man, half bull. And Theseus, the son of Aegeus, instead volunteered that he would go in. And so you have that story about the labyrinth. And that's why you often see there's amazing surviving artifacts, statues, sculptures, where you see a figure leaping over the bull, And that seems to be some kind of sport that probably did exist. In the story is Theseus goes in, he wanders around, he kills the um, the Minotaur in the labyrinth, um, and when he left the labyrinth, he got on his ship, and he was supposed to raise a white sail, that so his father could see that he was successful. But apparently he forgot, and I think, did he raise a black sail? So his father was rather despondent and jumped into the sea, finishing himself off. And so they named the Aegean in his honor, apparently, symbolically. But it seems almost, it's funny that that card is actually missing, which is most appropriate. Because I think all the endless information that we look at is like a labyrinth. And when you're only manifesting out of information, you trap yourself in your own mind in a labyrinth of your own making. And we live in a very strange time where we have far too much information. So the normies just look at headlines to be informed about what's happening in the world, so they can have like the water cooler and the cocktail party conversation. Did you hear about the thing? Yeah, I heard about the thing. And then you repeat the appropriate information. What's the appropriate response to various things happening in the world? You see, you haven't even read the article, you've just looked at the headline. And so, this thing is good, that thing is bad, etc. You don't know anything about it, you don't know about the history of it, you don't know about the contradictions, the implications, but you just go along with it because that makes life easier and you just want to fit in, because you will not do the work that this man has done of going into the labyrinth and slaying the beast. And that can seem like a process of self-actualization. You see, I think what I dislike, with the tarot card readers are, which you would say is both the reader and the viewer are equally culpable, is that you cannot create purely out of mind. It is mind and heart. That is what the great sage, known as Sonic the Hedgehog, tried to communicate to us, to us poor fallen mortals in this realm, that you manifest through thought and emotion, and then you act upon the stage. Now, obviously, if you were watching a Mark Capasio video, at this point I would be insulting you and screaming at the camera that you must act. It's basically like, I have an idea to start a band, but I'm just sitting in my bedroom, so nothing is happening. So, the starting the band is like, you put an ad saying, let's start a band, and then you rent a rehearsal room and you rent the studio and you make the album and then you play a show. So that's the mental, the thought, that's the heart, the emotion, and then the action of actually leaving your house and doing something. And we just become lost with too much information, of endless stories we tell ourselves, and listen to the endless stories we're being told, and we're lost in a sea of disinformation and misinformation. But to create your life, it is thought and emotion, feeling that what you would wish to happen is something real inside your heart and soul. And then walking upon the stage of life as though you are already successful and complete and whole, the hero in your own journey. Because what the Greeks observed around them was a very harsh natural environment where you could die very easily, and the gods used you as playthings where anything could randomly happen, and you have to feel sorry for Oedipus Rex, etc. Because they had this stoic attitude to life that we do not have at all in the West. We're so soft. Life has been made so easy that you can be a complete failure, a complete unrealized, unactualized, non-self-realized soul without ever doing any work in the shadow or realization that you are soul and spirit animating a mortal animal's body, that you have a divinity that is awakening. But all around you is the song of the siren singing Soma directly into your soul to go to sleep. And you can happily live in the mediocrity of Netflix and chill and SSRI prescriptions and synthetic weed giving you brain damage. But the Greeks knew how harsh the world can be, and you wouldn't be surprised that you could be killed by a lightning bolt at any moment from a bored god. Or, of course, natural law. But they went on the hero's journey despite the tragedy, despite everything. And you can read about such things, It's funny, isn't it? This character, he almost looks like a Hindu god, and then you've got your symbols here, which are like swastikas. But this is actually the god of the Greeks. Well-known book. A book is an organic piece of technology which contains information which is used by the reader to transmute into knowledge. I think books are very underrated pieces of technology. We don't even really think of them as technology. I mean, I could sit down and read this for the summer, but there's always a new story on Zero Hedge, and there's always a new tarot card reader or reading. You see, it's like the idea of the endless scroll. it just goes on forever. It's like being addicted to the update, and it's not just like the update from friends and family and job. It's the updates from the media of like being up to date of the news and entertainment. You know, entertained to death, um, amused to death, as Roger Waters would say, which was also from a book. But you see, we can't keep up to date with the torrent of information. It's not possible, and we become fooled by that. We think of ourselves as living in a very sophisticated time, um, but it's actually quite a fallen time because all the technology is all the technology, I think, is atrophying our brains. You know, so using the calculator on the phone instead of doing the maths in your head. Like a good simple practice is, you know, when you go around the shops, is you add up the shopping in your head, and then when you get to the checkout, see if you were right or how close you got, which is handy to see, you know, how much money you're spending. But it's also a good little mental exercise. Or, you know, people would remember all their friends. You know, could you remember 10 telephone numbers, or are they all just there? So you don't have to remember anything. You know, can you remember um, how to drive somewhere or give directions somewhere? Or are you just following a GPS saying turn left, turn right, turn left, turn right? And it's kind of funny how we've even got a kind of pop culture prophecy of some of that degrading of the human being and stuff like the prophecy of Idiocracy and Wall-E. Because the task is upon your shoulders to do anything and to do everything, because nobody is coming to save you, and the things you want to do in your life are up to you. You have to act upon the stage. You have to turn information into knowledge. Endless information, the endless scroll, is creating a labyrinth in your mind. But what you find is when you leave the labyrinth, when you realize the labyrinth is a mental construct, the great thing is that it leaves you in front of an open horizon, a landscape stretching out, a rising sun, a new day. It's a world for you to walk into. That so much of the limitation and the confusion is all mental energy, and it's like a psychic wind blowing through, and so many chains are self-created. And we're deliberately given confusing information on, you know, should you eat meat? Should you be vegetarian? Should you eat butter? Should you eat margarine? You know, I find they're all rather silly games, and so often I find in our inverted world, you often can't go wrong just presuming the opposite of anything you see on the news is the truth. It's a funny thing. It's like the people in the Soviet Union knew when they were listening to the news that they were listening to propaganda, but the peoples the citizens of our Western liberal democracies think when they're watching the news they're actually getting reality, when they're watching just latest installments of the magical theatre of the absurd. And what is absurd is to give your sacred divine attention and presence to these falsehoods, because that which is incorruptible, your divine soul, starts rotting from the inside as you degrade. I think tarot is fascinating, and is a whole other subject about the history of tarot and the Renaissance, about alchemy, archetypes of elements, earth, air, fire, water, the astrological signs of how we're all interacting, the 12 signs of the zodiac, 12 gates of the city. So I do think in some sense we are like on a hero's journey, and part of that is going through like the zodiac, going through the wheel of the zodiac. And I think we have all these elements within us, and it's like if we have a dominant element, or one person is earth interacting with someone who's air, and it's interesting to look at from the archetypes, and it's interesting to write a story or make up a story from those points of view, because they really do go into the deep parts of our unconscious and the sleeping songs of our ancestors, etc. But we confuse ourselves with endless information, and information paralyzes us from acting. You know, if you read Zero Hedge all day and then watched BitChute videos all night, you would be basically too terrified to do anything, to leave your house, and the world would always be ending. But we live in very strange times, but we are here to find ourselves, to remember who we are as sovereign souls, and then to act upon the stage, to be the hero in our own novel of our own writing. You know, it's like, do you want to be the sidekick? Do you want to be the background person? Do you want to be the shopkeeper and the bus driver who's mentioned on page 13 of the novel? Or are you the hero going through the whole journey until you slay that minotaur? The minotaur that gets in the way of your thought and emotion manifesting your life and acting. You must act. Because if you don't act, Mark Passio is going to get seriously annoyed with you. Really, you know, goes without saying. But in the meantime, just some idle thoughts. So we all trying to make sense of things. In conclusion, will we all be paying our electricity bills through tarot cards, or will we all be jumping over bulls in the maze before we slay the beast? But whatever you do, don't fear the worst and jump into the sea.